Good
morning! It's Anne-Marie and
Eugene.
And we're here with another episode of Half Awake, Fully Caffeinated.
Kind of nice not having to take the charge on
I was
that.
gonna say, but you can take over now.
No, you're good.
That's okay.
No, keep going.
This is a podcast where we drink coffee and we ask 2 coffee questions and 2 non-coffee questions, and then we answer them.
Half awake.
Half awake.
We are it is 5 a.m.
It's very early morning.
You'd never be able to tell.
But you never know, because I'm so awake and chipper.
Always. Best
Okay.
conversation in the morning.
Today we're drinking a Costa Rica.
Oh, heck, I haven't even tried mine yet. Yours is interesting.
Yeah. Very different. Maybe I didn't let mine bloom long enough.
How long did you let yours bloom?
40 seconds.
Jeff, gold bloom. I did 50.
Yeah.
50 seconds. I said at least 50 seconds.
For you. And
For those of you that
you're
are
right.
familiar with brewing, are starting your home brewing journey, if you get a coffee that was roasted the day before, our recommendations is let it bloom for,
Longer.
Potentially almost 2 times as long as you normally let it bloom.
Yeah.
Almost. But, as most people do, as we do, not most people, 2 coffee questions.
2 coffee questions.
So, first coffee question. Mine was roasting defects. But before we get to roasting defects, you have to check the coffee for her nose.
I feel like some mistakes have happened. Real quick, what is your non-coffee question?
Oh, my non-coffee question, it was, I looked it up, AI.
Okay, so...
You wrote down the questions that you were asking me.
No, I wrote down the questions that you asked for me, and I got we're both going to be talking about roasting defects today,
It's okay,
guys.
I can riff. What was my questions then?
Roasting defects, and then my non-coffee question was, what is carbon fiber?
Yeah, those are yours are roasting?
Roasting defects.
I thought mine was roasting.
No, sorry, green bean defects.
Is yours?
Yes.
Then what happened?
I don't know. That's why I'm confused.
What do you mean? Mine are roasting defects, yours are green bean defects.
Okay.
So there's no confusion.
There's no confusion. That's right. It's 5 a.m.
What the fuck just happened?
Give me a break.
We're okay. Yeah, so before we get to roasting defects, you have to check for...
Green bean defects.
And we told you the other topics. Mine was AI, open-ended, and yours was...
Is carbon fiber. Dude, I just watched Her the other day. Have you ever seen Her?
Of course I've watched her.
I hate
Do you think I
hate
underneath
AI. I officially am terrified of
Are
it.
you terrified, or are you sad that it hasn't appeared yet so we can have the most fulfilling love romance of our lives with a phone?
I'm terrified.
It's terrifying.
Scared, terrified.
So, I think to honor the defects, we either choose to go non-coffee questions first, or you have to kick off with green bean defects, and I'll kick off with roasting defects.
Okay. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's go coffee.
Let's go coffee. All right. Anne-Marie, we have a 4-minute timer that is going to go for you in about 4 now. Go.
4th now. Okay, so
Ready?
there's a few different
Run.
types
Do it.
of green bean defects. Okay, the door just opened.
Yeah, there's
I'm
someone
not gonna
here.
if there's someone.
There's
Okay.
an individual.
A few different. There's full defects and there's partial defects, but more or less, the categories are the same. Just one is more intense than the other. The full defect is more intense than the partial defect. So, for example, you can have a full black or partial black green bean, and I really wish I had examples for you guys, but it's just the green bean is black, or if it's a partial black, it's partially black, and it literally is just, that's just our jar of weird beans. None of them are.
Some of them are actually
green.
None of them are green, but some of them could actually.
Okay. Oh, for you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And there's also full sour and partial sour. These are basically like the sour. It means it's like a more like a not yellow, but like a brownish.
It's wrinkly.
It's wrinkly.
Brownish yellow.
Brownish. It looks kind of not as good as the other green beans.
Sometimes seems a little out of
A
place.
little out of place.
Not because of the color.
Yeah, and these are. See, that's what distracted me before. So I'm walking in. These are not necessarily things that are wrong with the bean naturally. It's just the process and the way in which they dried. They were dried in the sun. At least the full black and the black and the sour coffee. Because there's also, you can find things like dried cherry pods. I've come across a couple of those before where it's like the coffee cherry itself hasn't been pulped yet, so it's still the fruit. You can have random shit in there, like little rocks or little
Pieces of twigs.
thank you.
Tweed.
Things like that. And these are all things that you find in the green bean coffee bag when you're opening it and looking at it. And like is it 3?
If you have more than 3 full defects.
Yeah, more than 3 full defects, it's not, you're out, you're done, we're not doing this.
Clarification on sour versus full sour. So sour and full sour are fermentation.
Okay.
And so when the cherry ferments and it overly ferments, it starts to share its fermenting flesh juices to the seed, and then it starts to taste. Then it starts to alter the taste quite a bit.
Okay. Yeah, what he said.
Then there's also fungus.
Yes, I'm getting there.
I'm sorry. You just got to rocks, and I was like, okay, are we done?
No, we're not done.
Sorry.
Then there's fungus damage. Which is, is exactly what it sounds like. It is damage from fungus from the beans that is grown in there. There's also insect damage, which can, and my personal opinion, fungus and insect damage look very similar. And it's like a little tiny black hole on the bean, but not a black hole.
So yeah, the insect damage is definitely like you can see almost like something bore into the thing, into the seed. Fungus damage, there's no real like boring, it's just like a black.
Just like a little speck.
The black spot. Whatever that is.
Yeah, that. There's obviously different layers or levels of these defects. Green bean defects are not, they're important to catch, but they're not very fun to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, there's different things that happen with green bean defects, and I think more it's kind of fun to talk about it when you run into a coffee that's like extremely defective, and it's like you have some coffees where you can tell that they were damaged during the processing, so they've been cut in half into pieces.
Cracked or
there's some mutated coffees that you'll run into. I forget the name of those ones, but they're like not entirely the same size and they have a weird shape. Not talking about pea berry, something completely different. And then there's just this like fact-finding, investigative thing that you can do when you have these types of defects in green coffee.
Yes.
We ran into a sample recently that was extremely defective. And so the measuring the 3 defect, or actually having 1 full defect in, I think, we'll have to clarify, but it's a 100 gram sample is what you're looking at. And then there's another weight category after that.
It's like no, I'm making it up. I don't want to say the number. I'm talking out of my butt.
It's okay. If you want to, you're more than welcome to clarify it there. But I will get started with roasting defects, because roasting defects are a little bit more customer facing. You're gonna see these things all the time. I have started the timer. The number one most common defect, no, I don't know if it's entirely the most common, but it's probably the easiest one to call out, is called scorching. And scorching happens if you drop a coffee at too high of a temperature, which increases the temperature of the bean internally too quickly, and so it scorches in the middle. So the middle of the bean usually has like really dark discoloration, and to fix that is just lower the initial drum temperature. Tipping is also similar to scorching, but that happens if you keep, if there's excessive heat, not at the beginning, if it's excessive heat altogether, so it scorches outside and it like, what's it called? It heats the outside up faster than the inside. So scorching happens, too much heat initially. Tipping happens when everything is heating too much throughout. Underdevelopment, I don't entirely know if some people would call that a defect, but if it's underdeveloped, usually you'll get that like grassy flavor, and then the color of the coffee won't actually match the color that you're looking for. This can happen for some coffees that are a little bit denser than they should be inside the actual roaster. Baked coffee. And I've done this before, and I remember when we had our Q grader here, he was like, "What did you do?"
What did you do?
And I was like, "Oh, I tried a different roasting profile." And he's like, "Seems like you took a little long." And so baking usually happens when the coffee has taken too long to reach the development that you were planning for. And this usually results in kind of like a papery, cereal-like flavor. And this is where you kind of had that fine balance where baking can happen if you're not, baking can happen if you don't have a high enough charge temperature and high enough heat, while as scorching and tipping happen when you're too much heat.
Yeah.
Quakers are underdeveloped beans. They are of not the same color, kind of similar to what I was talking about where it's underdeveloped, but these Quakers are actually never going to be the same color as other coffee beans. And that can be reduced by improving the quality of the green beans before you actually roast. Second crack defects, these happen after the second crack, which usually means that if you get to a second crack, we're getting into territory of coffee that's been roasted too much. Not entirely too much, but too much for my subjective.
For my personal preference.
My personal opinion. Chipping. This happens when the coffee just gets chipped, comes out, roaster's moving around, chip, break. Usually you don't run into this as long as the coffee meets a certain size. But if it gets smaller, it can get stuck in grates in our cooling chamber and a few other things. Facing, this does not happen very often with green or with coffee that is roasted. Am I boring you?
I'm so sorry.
Facing only really happens with roasting that is occurring outside of a drum. So if you're roasting coffee on a pan, or like maybe a crappy roasting machine where the drum is like, I can't turn. That's when you get facing. Facing is one side of the bean is roasted more than the other. This just means that you really need to do some really hard work to make sure that you're still,
stirring the pot.
I do have one or two more. Blistering. Which we've never seen.
Yeah.
But blistering occurs when the surface of the bean is so hot that it literally boils it, and so then you get like popping and whatnot. That you just don't heat coffee that fast, honestly.
Wow.
Like if you ever get to a point where you've blistered coffee,
that's you're doing something strong and
you
powerful.
have an insanely hot roaster. And then, shells, this is more just part of the green bean defects that made it into the roasting. Again, the way that you can reduce that is
Pretty
by...
sure there's a shell in there.
Yeah. In here we have some very interesting ones.
Yeah,
This is what you would call a Quaker.
It's a weird bean.
But this is an extremely strange Quaker.
Oh, no, that's because that one is a, shoot, what's it called? It's called, a floater. It's called a floater.
Yes. Oh!
The green bean defect.
A shell. Hollow, light, flaky pieces of bean after roasting. I don't actually think this is a shell. I think this is actually a green bean defect. But I think what Anne-Marie is referring to is that we actually have a bullet shell here.
Yeah, we have a bullet shell in there.
This is not from roasting.
The weirdest bean yet.
That was found in our in our company vehicle.
Company vehicle.
But after we bought it, of course. But all right, so let's jump into the next question.
Oh yeah, the next question.
Kerbin
Ferber.
Oh, actually, before we do that, do you want to clarify the things?
I couldn't find it quick enough. I wanted to listen to what you were saying, so.
Carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber. Okay, so you make carbon fiber by taking. It's not petroleum. It's
Patron.
It's oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. It's propane gas, not petroleum.
Got it.
Propane gas and ammonia are chemically,
Not meshed.
Yeah, and that is what makes the beginnings of the carbon fibers, because so almost everything is carbon based, and so it's Earth over here. My brain's not on this morning like normal. So you take, I keep forgetting what it's called, propane gas and ammonia, and you mix it together, and this makes what's called it's called acrylonitrile.
Acrylonitrile.
And then you take acrylonitrile and you react it with itself, and it makes long chains of the acrylonitrile. And so yes, it turns into, think of it in the same way as making like yarn or thread.
Okay.
It's like that's how it gets made. And then these threads of carbon fiber are then woven together and then baked in an oxygen-free environment.
Interesting.
Because
it might explode.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, actually, I think not necessarily explode, but catch on fire for sure.
Oh.
But it's so you bake it into whatever shape that you want it to be baked into, and then to reinforce it, because right now it's just like a weird thick fabric, but you do this magic thing. There was a big fancy name for it, and I didn't write it down. I regret it. I was like, I'm gonna remember that. It's poly something. One of those long sciencey words. Poly something.
Morphine.
Sure. But basically, you coat this fabric that is made in resin or plastic, and that will solidify and make it harder.
Got it.
And so with carbon fiber, it is, what is it? It's like half the weight of aluminium, but twice as strong as steel. And it's because of the combination of the carbon fiber that was baked and then the resin, and it's really strong and it's really light and durable.
Say aluminum for the viewers one more time.
Did I say it wrong?
No, not wrong. Just say it for the viewers.
Aluminium?
Yes, there we go. All right. She's from Britain.
I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. Aluminum. That's never felt right. You're right.
Aluminum.
That's never felt right to me. Aluminium.
Aluminium.
Yeah. Aluminum. I was wondering why you were like
Back
in one corner. That honestly is how carbon fiber is made and what it is. It literally is just fibers that have been carbonized.
And it's propene, not propane.
Exactly, it's propene, not propane, or the other one.
What other
It's too, my brain no worky right now.
Her main, it's propene currently in there, not propane.
Not propane.
No heat.
No, petroleum. That was the word that was started in my head before. Petroleum.
Petronium. Patron and what was the other thing?
Patron and ammonia?
Ammonia. So cool.
They are figuring out how to, because it's not, propane and ammonia are not a very green friendly fabric way to make carbon fiber. So they're trying to find different natural materials, because think about it, everything's made of carbon. You can use it. So they're using things like celery to try to make carbon. I don't know how successful they are with that so far, but like fibrous.
Interesting. I also know that the structure of carbon fiber is like the structural rigidity of carbon fiber is very dependent on how it's layered too.
Yes, it's the way it's weaved.
Yeah. And so when I went to Boeing and looked at some of the way that they were making their airplane wings out of full carbon fiber, the conversation was that they had a lot of testing going on about how they were layering the carbon fiber to create additional rigidity, but also allow for flex, because you need to have an in-between between those. Like you can't just have super flexy and unbreakable, or unbreakable but no flex.
Yeah. Last fun fact, little tidbit, is the acrylonitrile that is made from ammonia and propane smells like onions.
Delicious. All right, let's talk about AI in general, as it is for a thing. So most everyone is talking about AI, and it's like, oh, we have AI backed this, and we have AI backed that, and we have AI this and AI that. Generative AI is something that you guys are probably running into quite often, which is the like photos. It makes things. It is generating stuff based on cues that we give. Some of that includes photos, some of that includes copies, some of that includes other creative assets. There's AI in healthcare. There's AI in autonomous systems like drones, cars, that type of stuff. AI in business and industry, so making business decisions for us. And then natural language processing, ethical and social, delving into ethical and social things and like trying to interpret those. In research and development, creativity, education, there's so many things that AI is currently in. But what I wanted to do is see how far off is AI from being actual like intelligence. And it's interesting because you can't really compare it to human intelligence because it's very specific. Like human intelligence is very
We're amazing.
The things that we're able to do are very impressive.
Nobody can do anything like us. We're unique individual stars.
When you say nobody, you're talking about people, and there are no people that can do the same thing as people.
And I mean nobody as in no
other
body. I'm done. I'm sorry. Keep going.
So there's a thing with AI where I think we try and compare its intelligence to human intelligence, but there's other types of intelligence that we could be looking at it. But my threshold of how close is AI to intelligence is that AI needs to have intelligence similar to us.
Right.
So that's my subjective marker. And based on what I was able to understand is that AI, as it is now, is extremely good at looking at patterns, looking at models, looking at numbers, looking at things in the past, cataloging it, and then using that information to generate more information or analysis or something along those lines based on patterns and models. It is like it looks at Excel spreadsheets like we would read a book.
Ooh.
But what it lacks is the creativity and the ability to make mistakes, I think is a really good way of putting it. Like we've had conversations about this. Most of human evolution, or most of human innovation, not most, but a good number of them, total mistakes.
Yeah, okay.
You had to go through so many iterations of this random thing of okay, how am I going to fasten a door to the wall? it used to just be nails, and then it turned into like something else, and then we had screws, and like screws didn't really, or the actual Phillips head screw thing didn't exist until the 60s. And so there's these things that we do that require a creativity that is borderline stupid.
Yeah.
But like AI is not borderline stupid. Like it has rules, it has models, it's following accuracy, it has specific things. So right now it doesn't have the ability to look at models and patterns and be like, let's apply this in this way and see what happens. And it's interesting because it's like, that's true. I think AI is extremely smart. It's really good at what it does, but it's not stupid enough to use that in the way that humans would. And so that's kind of where, you know, we have that thing where it's like, oh, well, AI is going to take over the world. It's like, well, I don't think AI currently has the ability to interpret our instructions in such a way that it could make the jump of, oh, humans are a detriment to society and to the world, so we need to get rid of humans. We're not there yet. I do think that, you know, people are creating this, and I don't think it's entirely too difficult to generate that.
To generate something that portrays humans as the bad guys.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, all you need to do is like train an AI computer to be like, okay, so here's the model, and we're currently looking at how we can raise more sheep disease-free, but, you know, tacos.
Tacos.
And just like, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, but what could tacos do? And then like follow that. And then like, you know, there's those random chain of events that happen in your brain, tangential thoughts that AI can't do, that has not mimicked humanity yet.
Right.
But yeah, that's where AI is now. I'm not going to get into how AI operates because it's like servers and stupid stuff. And I mean, it's not stupid, it's extremely intelligent, but I don't want to talk about it.
It's hard. My one thing that I would like to talk about is the deeply uncomfortable and disturbing situation of what happened in Her.
What?
And how I feel like that can't, is that possible? That's not, it can't. It broke my brain.
What disturbed it?
They had AI sex.
I mean, it's kind of like, how does one sext somebody?
But like,
but then also like,
but it's a human being on
the
both
phone.
Yeah, on both ends. One of them is a computer that has access to, you know, all of the what feelings and emotions. I just spat. I'm so. I just don't understand why she was moaning.
She's probably looked at patterns and models of how individuals, you know, reach it. They get there, and you know, the software knew what to do.
But she doesn't breathe oxygen. Why is she anyway? Anyway, that's not. It's fine.
It's that thing where we made it in our image.
The movie, exactly. It stuck with me more than I thought it would.
Yeah, and you know, it's getting close, but not at all at the same time. I myself purchased an R1, which is a rabbit. It's supposed to be like your handheld, oh, I do everything. It's like, hey, rabbit, will you please schedule something? And I don't have to pull out my phone to do anything. Turns out, not there. So don't waste your time on that, but cool. Let's jump into questions for next week. I have your questions right here. First question is, what is soaking and roasting? Because soaking can be
a plethora of different things.
But in popular culture, certain people are recognizing
No,
things.
it's not popular culture. It's specifically popular Mormon culture. But
people know of this thing and make fun of it quite often. And then my non-coffee question is, how do photos do?
How do photos do? Mm-hmm. How does that work?
How do that?
How that do?
Yeah.
Cool. My questions for you are my coffee question is, what is French roast coffee? And then, are you sending these to yourself
Yes,
again?
of course. But it's in the exact same place as I normally do it instead of just sending it in a random spot.
And my non-coffee question is a little bit of a curveball for you today because there's no absolute answer. But why is Nicolas Cage in so many movies? I just want to know.
I have so many guesses, but all right. Per usual, hey y'all, thank you so much for joining. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast or the vlog or whatever you're watching this from, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, subscribe, do those things. And then if you have a topic that you'd like to know about in our half-awake way, comment it below.
Just let us know.
Let us know. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.